This is going to have a bit of carbon on it. Well, I'm pretty sure it is. I better check that. Yeah, carbon stripes. Yep. Most of the strength doesn't come from the carbon, it comes from the actual cloth. Okay, so sits there. A lot of people wonder why I put this tape on. It's so I don't have the paint have a big fat blurry line, so I do it. This means I've only got the resin going off a little bit next to the tape, so there's no chance of a change of colour. It's all preventative. You're always trying to not stuff up. Tell you what, it's good not seeing my face on the camera now for a while. I'm enjoying this. I'm sure it'll come up again. Now, let's do this. I'll put my gloves on. My cheap gloves. These are going to look fantastic, these two boards. Boy, Mark's got some nice looking boards here. You always give your resin a good stir. You see it so much where, you know, they won't stir it enough. At least 30 times. Right, wet that out in the middle. Takes a bit more for it to get wet next to the edge of the cloth. Might be because the weave's a bit tighter. Do this, give it a chance to wet out. Check where it's sitting on the, straighten that up a little bit. Now pull the strand straight. See here? Pull the strand straight. I do it first. And again. Now, this is the way I come up with doing it. I've done it when we first started using the carbon. I used to just cut it and put it under the cloth. I've done the thing where you tack it down with a bit of glue. There's so many different ways you can do it. The main thing is you want it down flat. You don't want any air in it, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm not making it too dry, but I'm making sure it's perfectly flat, because you don't want to sand through the cloth. If you sand through the layer above it, you lose so much strength in your board. So I'm using the tape as a help to, there you go, and then I go all the way off the front. There we go, that's done. Now just pull these strands straight. I actually grab the strands themselves, see there? Now pull them straight. Hang on, that's a little bit out here. You just look down the board and make sure it sits right. That's better. A little bit here. Now pull the strand straight. There we go. They're looking pretty darn good. Just let me fix this bit up here. That's perfect. Now get this straight again. So I'm pulling those strands straight. I'll just get rid of this quickly, the excess tape. That meant there was no extra resin on the board, like that. Get rid of my gloves. There we go. Get the scissors. Now I'm going to cut this off right here. Make sure there's no drips under here. Perfect. So, get my brush out of here. Hasn't gelled yet, but that's good. I don't want it to. Now make sure the front's pulled down. Cut it right on here. Get rid of the lump. There we go. Get rid of that. Now I don't want it to go off yet. Okay, this is the thing. I want this glass that I'm pulling over the top of it now to, I want it to be soft and I want it to soak into it. So I'll hold that there. There we go. Pull that down. Pull that down. Now that's, I want that carbon to soak into the new layer of glass because it's just going off. There you go, see how it's just gelled? So I'll put the excess in here. There we go. Now, I'll cut the cloth. This is carbon, Colin. Very hard to glass with, but it's the strongest. Now see how I've got this cloth it's just tacking off now, but it's holding this carbon down. And I'll do the same on the nose. Go around like this. I'll cut this, and then I'll just use my hand to make the cloth sit round a little bit. See there? Now that's holding that carbon down perfectly, no air's getting into it. That's going to stop that from going real weird. Okay, see how it's holding that there? Now I'll cut the rest of this. See how, whoops, see how this is getting held down? See how the cloth's sitting in position there and it's holding the carbon down, so it's not doing anything it shouldn't. You're working with the resin that's going off. I didn't want it to go off too quick, but I wanted it to go off so it was just tacky and holding that cloth in a position. As I say, the Colin is a hard glass to work with. It wants to move around and all that sort of stuff, but it is a superior cloth. Okay, I want to make the strongest board I can make, and I can do that with Colin. Because it just moves and it's really difficult to work with. Sorry, my handle broke. I should get a new one, but this works. That works. Righto, clean this squeegee because I need this. Oh no, a bit of resin's gone off on that. That's no good. I'll get my stick. It hasn't gone off hard. There we go. You've got to take care of your squeegees. There we go. Perfect. Tiniest bit there. Very rarely will I let my squeegees go bad. Just like this one. Same thing, that just sat against the side of the container. And this little bit of resin that's going off, you scrape off. There we go, perfect. For some reason it didn't lay down in the acetone. Must have been the way I dropped it. I don't know what's happened here. My little... There we go, that's better. I should get that handle one day. Now, next part, I'm going to glass this bottom. You can see that's holding it down now, that's gelled, so that's fine. I can glass straight over that. A lot of people get the time you can go back over it. So, there we go. About that much. Give that a good stir. Righto, let's get this on, like Donkey Kong. Now I do it a little bit different when I've got this bit of carbon down the center. I don't let too much resin sit on it for too long because it's going off, which means it'll set off the resin above it. So you've got to sort of change your technique a little bit. I flood it on there now, like this, but then what I do is I'll just take the excess out of it here and let it sit beside it. Because I don't want it going off yet. Righto, so that now has no excess resin over it, which means it can't go off on me. Right, let's get this wet out. Most of this lap's wet out already. Sometimes it rolls down really nicely. Now the resin's, as I say, doing the work on the bottom now. I'm not doing anything. It's wetting it out on its own. Dale had it written up on his wall. Dale Stanton, let the resin do the work. Funniest thing. It's true, but let the resin do the work. Now, I go through here with I just snip off these extra bits. Easy to do it now. This is what happens with the colon. It just loses strands like that, pretty full on. But if you cut it off now, for that extra minute it took me, no drama. Now I just pull the resin off. I waterfall it. I waterfall a completely wet rail, not a dry rail. So what that means is it's sticking to it very nicely. Get the excess resin out of here, and then just use our hand . Waterfall this little bit here. Straighten that up. Very easy, this part. The rail, you know, the hand's already got it down. You're just getting out a little bit of excess. You hear that sound where it's hitting the dry part of the deck. Righto, so that's right. So I'll put that in there. Now, fortunately I've got to take my gloves off for this part. This part I can't get gloves that don't leave a mark. So I'm just straightening up all these little strands. There we go. Go the other way. It's funny, I used to work at a place where I had an extra rack and it was up really high. and I used to put it up there because no one used it, and I put it up there and so you could do this looking up straight. Anyway, oh, they used to go, oh, it must be a poofter doing that. Yeah, it must be, you know. Anyway, I walked into the factory years later, nearly 20 years later, and they still had it how I left it. So I said, there must be a lot of poofters around here. You know, so funny the bullshit that goes on when people's egos are a bit put out of joint. Always happens if you come up with a good idea, you'll get knocked. Happens all the time. Oh, look at this, nearly there. All these strands. And Colin does this very very much. Now, I'll have to put my free West Papua sticker back on my arm. Now I'm just making sure this is nice. Making sure the lap's down. No excess resin. Looking good. Looking good. Done. That now is Dunsky. Looks good. Everything's nice and flat. No air on the nose. Yep. Always check here, you always get a couple of bubbles on the back here. No, that's looking beautiful. Put a little bit on there. Beautiful. Now hopefully this will gel pretty quick. I don't think it'll gel super quick, but hopefully it'll gel shortly. Put these on so I can clean all my tools up. I'll glass the deck of this Savo about 3 o'clock. And as soon as this goes off, I'll be glassing the deck of that one. The bottom of that one. Go. Clean my scissors. There. Right. Now, that's gelled. That's good. That's what we want. Get rid of that. Yeah, so all that's done. I'll give that a few minutes to just gel. Not bad. Slaps down nice. Looking good. Oh, just turn the heat on, just to make sure we get, what's the temperature in here? 22. That looks good. Beautiful. So I'm just checking it. I want it to, you know, I want them all to look good, but Mark's got two boards and they're going to look bloody beautiful together, this nice bright green and the rainbow, or not the rainbow, the fade. Anyway, I'll come back